I'm about as real as they come.
All my beats tailored by Joe. House Digital.
Maserati Rick in Detroit. Convertible bird in Miami. Graduated summa cum laude. Strip club made a tsunami. Carlton Hines with the ball game. Grateful Edmonds with the snowflakes. Craig Pettis in the M-Town. Sal Magluta with the boat game. Falcone with the cocaine. Like Freeway Ricky with the plug game. Like Monster Cody in South Central. Larry Davis from close range.
Right. I mean, Orlando was being investigated for multiple murders at the time, and he was known to be a real gangster from Southside.
He was a little young hitter.
Involved in any way in the death of Tupac Shakur?
No, I was not involved. I mean, I'm like a victim. You know what I'm saying? I feel, you know what I'm saying, sorry for him. And, like I said, I was a fan.
A year after rapper Tupac Shakur was murdered in Las Vegas, police have still not charged anyone. They say they have no suspects, but members of Shakur's family insist they know who's responsible. And Diana Olick reports they're taking him to court themselves.
If police can't do it, the family of Tupac Shakur says they will bring the man they believe is his murderer to justice. A year and a half after the shooting that killed Shakur, his mother and estate are suing Orlando Anderson in civil court. They claim there is evidence he was in the white Cadillac that night in Las Vegas, that he got out and fired the shots.
From 1995 to date, have you ever ridden in a white Cadillac?
No.
Do you know anyone who owns a white Cadillac?
No.
Anderson, an alleged Los Angeles gang member, has vigorously denied any involvement in the murder and in depositions claimed he was not at the scene. The estate says the shooting was in retaliation for a fight in which Anderson was beaten by Shakur and others.
One of the reasons the estate is bringing the case is because no police are involved in seriously looking into the case.
Attorney Rick Fishbein, who represents the Shakur estate, argues Las Vegas police are purposely ignoring the murder.
They have a murder of a black rap artist on the street of a city that they're attempting to turn into Disney World of the Midwest or West.
Police refused an interview with CBS News, but gave us this statement. Other than the fact that Orlando's name is bandied about, often mostly by the press, he is a person we had interest in. He is not currently a suspect.
Suspect in the murder of Tupac Shakur was shot to death in Compton on Friday afternoon, following a gun battle that left 2 other men dead. Police say Anderson was gunned down moments after arriving at a Compton car wash shortly after 3 p.m. in the wake of what they are calling a previous monetary dispute. He was 23 years old. Anderson, you recall, was beaten by Shakur and Death Row Records chief Suge Knight in the Las Vegas MGM Grand on the night of September 1996. Ever since that moment, law enforcement officials, gang informants, even members of the Shakur family have cited Anderson as the prime suspect in Shakur's murder. But Anderson always fiercely denied any of those charges, and no official charges were ever brought. We'll have more on this story as the week continues, and we'll have more news at 10 to the hour every hour right here on MTV.
Yeah, we back. It's your boy Popalot. Mobb ties. We on our way to Cali with it. Compton to be exact. All my niggas from the city of G's, y'all get in the comment box below. Y'all already know how we run it. Now today we are going to be covering one of the names that will go down in infamy forever, or in hip-hop lore. And we're talking about none other than Orlando Anderson, or Baby Lane. Many people know him as the prime suspect in the Tupac murder. After his death, he was implicated by his uncle to be the murderer as well. And he was a known member of the Southside Compton Crips. Now, it's reported online that Orlando Anderson's father, Harvey Lee Anderson, split with his mother, Charlotte Davis, but Orlando had grew up with his great-grandmother, Utah, on a house on South Burris Road. Now, this house was said to be surrounded by his aunts, his uncles, his grandparents. Now, it's noted that this area is entrenched in spray-painted graffiti with the letters SS. Also, a stop sign has been redesigned with a blue aerosol paint can to read "Can't Stop the SSC," which is letting everybody know that this would be Southside Crip territory. I read where it said as a kid that Orlando Anderson's mother, Charlotte, worked 12-hour shifts as a bookkeeper to support her children. and he spent a lot of time at his grandmother's house. Now, being that Orlando spent a lot of time at his grandmother's house, that would put him in close contact with a guy by the name of Dwayne Keefy D. Davis, who would happen to be his uncle and actually a known member of the Southside Compton Crips. Now, it's mentioned that Keefy D was a childhood friend of the late rapper Eazy-E and also played football in youth league with Marion Suge Knight, which that relationship will come back to have implications later on. Now, by what accounts, Orlando Anderson was an up-and-coming hitter for the Southside Compton Crips, so most likely it was just business as usual in July of 1996 when Anderson was involved in an altercation at the Lakewood Mall where it said that him and his entourage assaulted Trayvon Lane, who was a member of Death Row Records, and they snatched a medallion that belonged to him. So it was said to be, or it's rumored that it was a bounty placed on Death Row medallion chains by their rivals, namely the Compton Crips. Now, what happens in the hood don't stay in the hood, and it will be that subsequent chain snatching that will unravel one of the most infamous nights in hip-hop history. Now, on September 7th of 1996, after a Mike Tyson fight, Trayvon Trey D. Lane would coincidentally spot Orlando Anderson alone by himself, and he would alert Tupac as well as the rest of the Death Row entourage that Anderson was the one responsible for the chain snatching in the Lakeland Mall. Now, that would lead to the entourage pretty much pummeling Orlando Anderson for a series of minutes, and it's said that after the beating, Orlando Anderson was questioned by Las Vegas police and was said to be uncooperative. Now, it would be later on in that evening with Tupac heading to Club 662 along with Suge Knight, where a white Cadillac will pull up on the right side of them and begin to open fire on the car, presumably hitting Tupac and also grazing Suge Knight. Several days later, I almost want to say it was 7, if I'm not mistaken, Tupac would succumb to those gunshot wounds. And almost from that day on, Orlando Anderson pretty much had to live with what some would call a target on his head of sorts. His lawyer would state that Orlando Anderson would say that he really can't go nowhere, or he feels like everybody is watching him, and he's pretty much known as the person that killed Tupac. It was obvious that this murder was attacking him in a different way because it was rumored on the streets that Orlando Anderson wasn't nothing to play with. He was allegedly one of the up-and-coming hitters, like I said, for the South Side. So with that being said, the pressure with being rumored as the man that murdered an icon and a hip-hop legend, you just know that he probably was dealing with that every day. And it wouldn't be 2 years from that, on May 29th, 1998, when his grandmother, Utah Williams, who was 85 years old at the time and the matriarch and the head of his family, would die at the hospital where she had been taken after a fall. Now, it said that Orlando Anderson's mother, Charlotte, remained at the hospital, and Orlando was at the home waiting for everybody to arrive, and he decided to go out and get a burger with an old friend by the name of Michael Reed Doro, who was also a member of the Southside Crips. Now, they're going to say a little bit after 3 p.m. on that day, driving a borrowed Chevy Blazer, he would pull up in a parking lot of Sig's Record Store at the intersection of Alondra and Olinda. Now, it was said that this specific store was in Corner Pocket Crip territory. I read some reports that said that they were rivals to the Southside Crips, but that's going to be for my people on the west side to pretty much break down. Now, they're going to say that this specific store was directly to the east of Southside territory. Now, it will be then where, according to police, Orlando Anderson would spot a gentleman by the name of Michael Stone at the store/car wash across the intersection, and he would go on to confront him I seen about a debt owed. I seen about a drug debt. I seen about a drug deal. So neither us will ever know, because everybody that was involved in that discussion or argument pretty much is not here to speak on it. Now, they're going to say that Michael Stone was accompanied by, I read it could be his nephew. I read some places where it was his brother, a guy by the name of Jerry Stone. Now, they would say tempers would flare, a gunfight would erupt, and pretty much all 4 people involved in that altercation would be hit. Now, Orlando Anderson and the Stones were fatally injured, and Duro was wounded, and he would be able to drive himself away from the scene in the pickup truck, but it would crash a block later. And I also seen where he would go on to try to challenge pretty much the state's drive-by shooting laws, and this was in the year of 2001. And according to him, he would pretty much go on to say that this was a self-defense murder, where he was just in the car with Orlando Anderson. He would witness Orlando Anderson being killed. He was not armed. After Orlando Anderson was killed, he would pick up the gun from Orlando Anderson and proceed to shoot it out with the Stones. He was eventually sentenced to a life sentence, or what amounts to a life sentence, plus 39 years or something ridiculous. I saw where he was trying to fight that on appeal, but it looked like it was unsuccessfully. So this one is for everybody that was asking for this story. Y'all make sure y'all get in the comment box below. Hit the bell right under this video so y'all know when this real Trill Spill shit is dropping. Y'all make sure y'all get at me on Instagram, on Twitter, POP_A_LOT. Y'all let me know what cities we need to go to, what stories we need to tap in on, who we need to cover, who we didn't cover. Y'all email me, CC me, text me, however y'all want to handle it. It's your boy Pop, Mobb.